So my name is Yasamin, and I'm the head curator and director of programming here at Kimball Jenkins. You're here for the show called Phaneron. It's in partnership with an annual show we have called SALON. The impetus for this show is communities and individuals who have to utilize the judicial branch of the government in order to achieve equity and justice and autonomy. And so in this show we have the amazing work of George Longfish. We have a year-long collaborative work from the young people over at the Waypoint Youth Resource Center in Manchester. We have some great work from Amber Nicole Cannon, and we have Able NH that's representing the disability community here. We also have great work of the unpaid labor of mothers by Michelle Peterson. So that's on the 2.5-acre estate here that we have. This is Kimball Jenkins, and we are a community arts center that's meant for the people. So this show is for you guys, so thank you. Hi, my name is Yasamin Safarzadeh. I'm the director of curation here at Kimball Jenkins. And today we have a really extraordinary guest, our friend Margaret Jacobs, who is featured in this show, but is also curating a big, I guess like a national, like indigenous show next year during the summertime. And we have the legendary George Longfish, who has graced us with a lot of his work, but one of which is a really shocking piece is a painting about James Thorpe, one of the greatest Olympians we've ever had. So I'm gonna mostly, I would love to hear you guys have some back and forth, but I've been very privileged to have a friendship with Margaret Jacobs, who I met through Julianne, and I guess I came to your space in New York. So I'm gonna hand this off, and I guess you can take it over a little bit or hand it back to me and say, that was ridiculous, take this back.
Yeah, my name's Margaret Jacobs. I'm an artist, I'm a metalsmith, educator, independent curator. And yeah, so next summer I'll be working with Yaz to curate a show here. I guess national is the word. There'll probably be a large component of Akwesasne artists, which are my homelands, and then some regional artists, including George, who we will be asking. I may have mentioned it to him. But yeah, really.
I definitely do.
Okay.
There's some 30-foot paintings that I want.
Yeah, we're going to try and get the big ones here. But yeah, just really kind of looking forward to that. And Yaz came over to my space in Salem, New York in September, I think. Yeah, it was September.
Yeah.
My husband and I received LARAC grants through it's like Lower Adirondack Regional Arts Council. So I had an open studio and showed a bunch of different work that I was doing. And then almost directly across the street, my husband Justin O'Rourke showed, he had a solo show of sculpture. So Yaz and the gang came up. We had a lot of fun and just kind of explored and looked at artwork.
Yeah. And then, I guess, well, how do you know George? I'm super curious. How did you guys meet?
So it was a while ago, but I think what happened was I worked at Ava Gallery and Art Center. I ran the exhibitions component from I believe it was 2010 to 2017. And in 2011, we had I think it was a regional show of Native American artists. And Paulette Werger was like, well, you have to invite George. And then just, looked up George's work and was like, yes, we have to invite George. And then what was really interesting is just, went to his studio, for a studio visit. We picked up the really large paintings in the U-Haul. And kind of after the fact realized that my uncle Alex Jacobs, who's an artist, showed with you back, I think it was back in the 70s at a show up in Potsdam. So just a really cool connection, and I don't know, small artist world.
And George, I mean, you have a very extensive career from one coast to the other coast. And somehow you found your way back to New England.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You guys hear me? I don't want to be yelling. Well, I actually got back here to this coast through my lovely wife, who lived in the Boston area, and I retired in 2003 from the University of Davis, or University of California in Davis. And she said to me one day, "I want to move home." So here we are. No, she said, "No, home. So that was coming from the West Coast to the East Coast. And we came out and we drove out and we started heading the area to figure where we wanted to be. And we ended up in South Berwick, Maine. And I met Margaret for a show that we did in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
A number of artists from Dartmouth, right?
There was 2 shows going on at the time, so the Hood Museum had a show at the same time.
Yeah.
But like nobody had any idea until like we had our openings. We're like, oh yeah, because I think you had a couple pieces and the catalog at the Hood Museum while Ava was doing the show too. So
Yeah.
there was like a little bit of overlap.
Right. Well, originally I wanted the show was in, what was the name of that gallery?
The
Do you
big,
remember?
like the Clifford West Gallery?
No,
big
the other one, the one that you were with.
At Ava?
Yeah.
Ava Gallery?
Yeah, the Ava Gallery. Yeah. I approached them about doing a one-man show. I said, no.
So George, you have, there's like a lot of, I wouldn't even call them ambitious. You just have these like, your paintings are very narrative or the subject is a pretty big freaking deal. Like the Indian motorcycle, the 12 Little Indians. And then you have one of your most recent pieces is the James Thorpe or Jimmy painting, which I think everybody's obsessed with. So did Jimmy come to you in a dream, or how did you say, man, I gotta tackle this?
I vaguely knew of him, not much, other than that he was more or less famous for doing the Olympics.
Not during his lifetime, though, I guess.
No, he did it in 1912.
Okay.
Which has surprised everybody because he won the 2 top awards. Mm-hmm. And it was just right after, it's kind of historically, the last war was the Battle of, in 1900, when Custer got massacred. So it's kind of interesting. That was about the 1900s.
Okay.
And 1912, he was at Carlisle, an Indian school.
Yeah.
We don't say too much about that.
We can imagine all of the atrocities and genocide that happened in those schools. Yeah.
It's and interesting, and I happened to pick up a book about him, and the other person was Dwight Eisenhower.
Yes.
They played against each other,
Okay.
which was really, really interesting. So in one level, he got the award for being the best athlete in the world. And then there was Dwight Eisenhower, who eventually became the President of the United States, which was interesting. He was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
In one way, when you play sports sometimes, if you have a well-known name, the attitude is, we got to kill him.
Like metaphorically, or like?
Well, you do it sportly, but I mean, he was so good that
Yeah.
when he went through the line, he took 4 or 5 people with him
Yeah.
and still kept going.
Yeah.
And they just really wanted to stop him. And then one of those encounters, Dwight Eisenhower messed up his leg, and then he had to quit.
Yeah.
And the next time he saw him was when James died. And I was reading this book about it, and I kind of got the thought about maybe doing a painting of it. I found it interesting because it's something that I'm going through also, is like trying to find a place of where I am and how I fit, which is never what you want. So it's interesting that way. And Jimmy, when he won the Olympics, he was great. Yeah. Today's society didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
You know, boom. You know, you go today, you read about all these young athletes getting these fantastic contracts, going in their first year of football, $90,000, $120,000, whatever. They didn't know what to do with James. You want to play baseball with us? We don't know anything about you, you know. They didn't know what to do with him. So he coached football, but he was never given any large amounts of money. So he would just function day to day.
And his gold medals were taken away from him because he ran a race for $5?
No, he was accused of cheating.
Oh yeah? Mr. Jimmy, okay.
I mean, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And they actually had one of the stories is that someone stole his shoes.
Yeah.
Track shoes, and he was going into the big event, which was the decathlon, which is the largest 10 event Olympic track, whatever.
Yes.
So he had to put the shoes together, tape them up, strap. He actually taped them to his feet because he was just a fantastic runner.
Yeah.
So he won.
So you mentioned that it's sometimes hard for you to find a place where you fit. And I think I remember when we had a conversation a while back that you said it's really funny, your paintings here seem political, but in California, they're pop art. You know, so it's sort of like...
Well, it's really funny when most of the work, I did 30 years at the University of California in Davis.
Yeah.
And we were never under the auspice of being political. It was spiritual. These are spiritual people. Da, 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 da. You know. So, you know, you go with it.
Yeah. Are you gonna buy my piece? Sure, yeah, I'll do whatever you want.
It's funny, probably I was the only guy during that time. Everybody did about maybe, the biggest was maybe 36 inches by 36 inches.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very small. My paintings
I know,
are 8 feet.
When we came with the U-Haul to pick it up, you have your studio is in New Hampshire and your house is in
Maine.
And you kind of show me these 30-foot paintings, and I'm like, not for this show, please. But the next one, like, I imagine an entire walls of the mansion. Yeah. We disappear them, and instead it's just George.
Yeah.
You know, George paintings. So, yeah. I'm
So
pretty excited.
I mean, it was very interesting because I was given a position when I was hired by the university to run a gallery,
Yeah.
a museum. It was named after Carl Gorman. And people started donating artifacts. And I said, no,
No.
get that stuff out of here.
Margaret, if you can grab the microphone for a sec. But so something that really excited me about the curation for next year's show was I think both of us were like, people have this idea of indigenous artwork, right? And it's like turquoise and dream catchers and garbage. And so what's really exciting is like this sort of world of all of the artists that you're in, and you participate in the Santa Fe market. And so I don't know if you can talk a little bit about what excites you about some of the through lines in in your curatorial brain or something like this, that in contemporary art making.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of stereotype. So for me, I'm always really interested in seeing artists who are using material in a really interesting way, using color in a really interesting way, pushing the boundaries of their chosen medium in a really interesting way. So they might be working using a more traditional craft, but maybe they're pushing the form or pushing the color, or pushing the aesthetic in a really interesting way. So I go out to Santa Fe Indian Market in the summer, as well as a couple other markets during the year, and I just really love it because you can really see, you can see Santa Fe there's probably 1,000 artists at the one market, and then there's like 500 at the other market, and then there's like so there's like all these markets, and there's thousands of artists showing, and you can really see just an incredible range of contemporary indigenous art making. So for me, when I'm curating something, I really like to show the public that aspect and the boundary pushing, and just the things that aren't stereotypical, the things that are really different, and then also just really focusing on emerging to established, because there are some really emerging artists who are doing incredible things but may not necessarily have a platform. So for me, being able to give somebody the opportunity and that platform is incredibly important. So just having a range of material, having a range of visual vocabulary, having a range of years in the field, they're just all exciting for me.
I think, and if Santa Fe is too far for you guys, they have a great art market in Aguasasne in July.
Yeah, so this year was 2 years. They're going to have so next year will be the third year. They have it around July 4th weekend. I'm not sure if it'll be that next year. But yeah, it's a one-day market, and it's a juried art show and a market, and they just started it, and it's really fantastic. And Akwesasne Travel sponsors it, and they've been just doing a really fantastic job of promoting it and getting people in just to see all of the art and craft that's happening there.
And when you say push the boundary, I'm reminded of a mother who makes really traditional the basket or an attire, and the daughter is yeah, okay, but I'm gonna push it now and make it futuristic or and so I really as you said, and those things are recognized. So you have the established traditional art making, and then you have best emerging or new, and so I just thought that was really interesting to mark that those are also important to be recognized. Yeah.
Well, I think part of it is really...
It's for the TV, George. It's for all the people at home. It's for the YouTubes.
No, the Indian art world is changing drastically, so fast. One of the guys, Jeffrey Gibson, is doing some incredible work. I mean, people a generation away from me love Fritz Shoulder. You don't see Fritz around anymore.
You know.
And Jeffrey's doing some incredible work, and there's other guys doing things that you wouldn't recognize are what you thought was Native American.
Okay.
But these guys are Native American, and they're just out there. They're doing incredible things that just blow you away.
I mean, your work blows me away. I also forgot to mention, no big deal, but one of George's pieces that's hanging here is a reproduction. So the original is actually hanging in the Smithsonian in D.C.
Yeah.
So like George's, like, you know, you're, I don't know, you're great ground with your work. It's. Yeah.
I never thought of myself that way. I just, you know, you got to remember where I was trained. I trained at the Art Institute of Chicago.
Yeah.
I was in the Euro-American way. And so you were always taught to make it as big as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just loved it. I loved it. So people would look at my work and say, what's that all about? And very rarely will I talk about, you know, when you're doing painting, it just doesn't come out there. You work it. And it's amazing in essence that when I did Jimmy, I read it through a sports book talking about his life as an athlete.
Yeah.
And I named it Jimmy because one of the people that I was in communication with, who I do a lot of what you would call spiritual work. I'm one of those guys, ooh.
Yeah, but that's how you met your wife, though, so it's okay.
She's fantastic. Anyways, where was I going with this?
I think you hit it.
Oh, just how the art world's changing.
Yeah.
It's in a really different place, and it's moving in a really different way
There's
than it had been.
there's a new magazine I'll call American First, and there's some incredible artists there that are just mind-blowing, that I would like to have. Because it's different. You know, I was trained and I knew what I was doing. When I was at the Art Institute, you had to know what you were doing.
Yeah.
Why did you do it? Why did you use it? You learn how to analyze.
Yeah, that's the thing with your work is it's symbolism and there's a narrative. There's like a clear like essay or thesis in.
But most people don't see it.
I guess you gotta go through the institutions, to like.
And most people, and I think the Indian art market is good for those people. Those people work all year.
Yeah.
And what they sell at that art market is what has allowed them the next year to come back. And so you have an idea of what you may believe to be art, but it's art from that area.
Yeah.
And it's not bad, but it's just there's people coming up now that are just, make me feel small.
You're not. You make me feel tiny. So okay, just so you know. It seems it's getting a little rowdy in here, so we'll probably wrap up. But we can look forward to another discussion with the two of you in the summertime, and more of your work in the summertime, and more of your work in the summertime, and some of your curation then as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything else?
I think so.
Let's have some wine. All right.
Well, I'll just say, what you see in my work is different.
Yeah.
And I'm at a place where you gotta take this with a grain of salt. I don't care where you're at or what you believe in art is.
Yeah.
Any art you look at and you either get a connection or not. I would say learn to live with it.
Take it with a grain of salt and learn to live with it. All right, George. Thank you. I'm the head curator over here and program director. This show, Phaneron, is about how we often have to utilize the judicial branch of our government in order to attain equality, right? Sometimes it isn't given to us. Like Amber Nicole's pieces over here are beautiful watercolors. But in order to see these watercolors, you have to work through a massive frame. This is her experience as a person in a wheelchair with a cane in Manchester, and how inaccessible that city was to people with disabilities. It's gorgeous work. We also have the disability justice timeline, and it will shock you to know what we have been doing to our fellow brothers and sisters in this community up until the 80s and still today. How people have to fight for their autonomy and their rights. There's a cyanotype parade relic around the corner here that was walked in the Disability Justice Parade that happens annually now at Arms Park, which is really exciting. So that's a little bit about me. Right now I'm going to introduce Rochella Simard, and a little bit. And I have the privilege of working with West High School sometimes, which is my favorite high school in this state. I'm sorry. And I got no dog in the fight because I'm from California. So, but I found these group of young women that were participating in St. Anselm's Ethics Bowl. And it's a statewide ethics bowl, but what got me was that this team was the coolest, colorful, done up, they were immaculate. And everybody else was from a private school with khakis and loafers. I was shocked. So you're talking about schools that are so resourced, and that was what this sound installation was, and these incredible young people. And the things that they had to burden, so I'm just gonna step back and let them speak for themselves, but it stayed with me, and I wanted them to have their work and that effort for the year to be showcased somewhere and to be recognized. So please, thank you so much, guys.
I'm just gonna say 30 seconds real quick, because I'm already uncomfortable. It's a national Good Child Ethics Bowl, and St. Anselm's is actually a partner with the entire national. We haven't competed in the nationals yet, but our goal is with students like these folks that are here today, that by the time they get to senior, I see us being in the top percentile at our competition. Yes. So we're really excited to have them. They've been a part of it since freshman year. And to be honest, they're the ones that reached out to find that opportunity to have these deeper discussions. And every year they have 16 cases. And all those cases have other deep dive information. These are real cases that happen internationally and nationwide. And they have to respond to these questions in the most ethical way to make sure that all folks involved in that case, that they find the best solution for all people. So it's just been a really great experience. I learn a lot from them. They're superstars, and we're not the only underfunded school that's participating, but a lot of schools that do participate are more private schools, especially the ones that generally win. And I mean, that's not to say anything, but if we had a lot more resources, a lot of our kids work, so there's a lot of setbacks for a lot of things for us to actually be able to really kick a little bit more ass. And so I'm going to introduce these two fine folks here. They are sophomores at West High School. They are some of the most amazing people in my 17 years of teaching that I've been able to work with. I'm super honored every day to work with these lovely humans. And we are missing, just to make a note, in the audio installation, which most of you can't hear because you're all chatting, obviously. If you would stop, maybe you could, no, I'm just kidding. But Nista Prasad is actually in Nepal visiting her family right now. So she could not be here tonight, but she's in the audio. But tonight we have Deepasha Giri and we have Mariana Gabor. So.
Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Deepasha. This is Mariana. We are a part of the West High School ethics team, and I'm going to try to keep it fairly short, but having this opportunity was really amazing to us because we went into the ethics team like very new. I had initially been looking for a debate team as like that was kind of what I was wired to think about, and it was aligned with my interests. But then we were introduced to the ethics team, as they said it was a bit similar, and so I kind of went into it with a debate mindset and wanted to figure out like what this may be like and what may be different about it, and I came to realize that it was much different, but it was so much better than I could have ever imagined. The learning experience that I gained through being on the ethics team, seeing so many different personalities, identities, so many different ideas, and just getting to learn so much about everyone's way of seeing things and just how they interpret these cases that we have to address is just like such a beautiful learning experience, and I feel like I've learned so much. As Yas said before, we were put up against mainly a lot of schools that had so many resources and just were really above us and just being able to really get into the content of these cases, but even so I feel like we gave so much of our opinions and our perspective, and I feel like with the time that we had and with the endless support by Ms. Samard, I cannot say it enough. Ms. Samard has been there through everything and has been nothing but supportive and just helped us grow so much as people, and I couldn't thank her enough for it. But even with like our limited resources and just not even having the same abilities like classes or getting into vocabulary, just being an underfunded school, being able to bring in that type of perspective, being a group of mainly women and women of color, we were able to bring in our stories and our perspective, and I was so glad that we were able to do that for so many others, and not even that, but we were able to learn, and I think that's the most beautiful thing and part of ethics is just so much was gained, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I honestly would do it again so many times. And just being able to share and learn and, again, just go through all of this was just such a beautiful learning experience. So I'm going to pass it over to
Hi, I'm Mariana. Going back to what Deepasha said about coming into high school and looking for a debate team. We were first kind of looking for a debate team, but then we stumbled upon ethics and what ethics was. And honestly, coming into high school, I was way more shy and was kind of resistant to talk to people. But I feel like coming into ethics, especially with Ms. Samar's help, I've become more of an open person. Obviously, if I'm standing here today. I definitely thank Ms. Samard so much for the opportunities that she helps us earn. And ethics is kind of a hard, I don't know how to express it, but it's kind of harder to go into something where so many people have more resources and so many people around them supporting them. It's, I don't want to say unfair, but kind of unfair. But I feel like we've came so far and we're such great and tremendous girls today. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity and how many more perspectives I gain and how much I learn every single time when we're in an ethics meeting with Ms. Mard. but I just want to say thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Yes.
Just to quickly end it off, I just want to say thank you to Yaz for giving this opportunity to us, even though it's kind of small and you can't hear it, but hopefully you'll come upon it. Yeah. Hopefully you'll come upon it and you'll give it a listen. But even so, just being able to like go through our cases again, talk about our experience, I feel like being given this opportunity to really recognize us as powerful young women of color that have so much perspective and so much to bring to the table, I hope as West High School students we can show other schools that, yeah, they may have more resources, they may have classes, they may have better vocabulary, but we have perspective and we have something to say. And I hope we can do that with the ethics team and what we bring. So thank you so much.
And then one more speaker, and then we're gonna listen to some music. So this is my best friend in the whole entire world, Amber Nicole Cannon, and I think she's gonna do a good enough job. Oh, you got this. You got this. Let's go. Let's go.
Hello. For those of you that don't know, I went through the process of relearning to walk as an adult. And as you can imagine, it was hard, very hard. A lot of that relearning to walk was done in the city of Manchester on the streets because it was COVID. So I'm also compromised, so I'm not going to go to the gym to learn to re-walk. And in that process, I had to walk for 10 minutes and then not walk anymore. Where do you go for 10 minutes? And I chose to go to little spots around the city that I thought were cute. Cute little houses, cute little things, pretty little things, nice areas in Manchester, downtown Manchester. And I would sit and I would paint for an hour until I was allowed to walk home. In that process, I encountered so many things that prevented me from being able to do my little paintings or my little physical therapy, that it got under my skin. And I continued to make paintings, and with creative collaboration from people like Yaz, and Yaz specifically, I realized these could be framed in a way that other people understood my experience a little bit more, and I could maybe point out some of the areas of the city that could be improved upon. Here you can see an intersection with only one crosswalk, and I don't know how you're supposed to cross it safely without at least 2 others. Preferably 3. And each one of these have had a different experience that prevented me from being able to just live my life. So as I continued making this art, I realized the art would only go so far, and I joined the Highway Commission in Manchester. And I began, very annoyingly to them, holding their feet to the fire for accessibility in Manchester. And I can happily report, though I don't think they're happy with me, that I have seen improvements in the last month in Manchester. And this is after years and years of me reporting the broken sidewalks or the crosswalk signals that you couldn't get to unless you were walking, and walking well. And some of it's happening. Some of the sidewalks are repaired. Some of the sidewalk signals are accessible. And there are changes happening in our sidewalks. Now, if we can keep our crosswalks from disappearing, we'll call that a win. But I hope you'll take a look at these pieces. Maybe think about a time when you couldn't do something you're used to being able to do, and think about someone else who feels very similarly about something you do every day, like crossing a street. So take a look. They're small. The moments are small, but the barriers are large.